I guess the format is basically I'll go through a brief introduction of each speaker, and then each speaker will have about 15 minutes. We, we, we pretty much wanted to hear your entrepreneurial endeavor, how you all started, what it takes to, coming from a humble beginning to having a vision of creating such a huge, enterprises and going through all those ups and downs. That's what we wanted to hear today to inspire us and especially women who have to work doubly hard. You got to go through so many, take care of the household, raise children, give birth to children and raise them and take care of all their personal things, and become an entrepreneur. It's not an easy task. um, so with that, I'll start with Miss Beth Van Duyne. She's our, I think, two-term Irving mayor. She served under, she's actually, I don't know if she's still serving under Trump administration as the director of urban housing development. And then she's running for the U.S. Congress from our district in Irving, Coppell area. She has a long career. She's been a successful businesswoman and raised two children successfully. And and then our second speaker is Vani Kola. She has an humble beginning. She went to school, college in Hyderabad in India, and then she moved to America and started her entrepreneurial endeavor in Bay Area. Extremely successful. Started several companies and exited, and now she's in venture capitalist in moved back to Bangalore, India, and then she's helping the early startup companies. We're very thankful for her. And then we have our third speaker, Ms. Jhansi Reddy, who's been successful businesswoman and a community leader. She's been part of various Telugu organizations, and recently she started her own organization called Women Empowerment Telugu Association. So with that, I'll let Miss Beth Van Duyne go first and talk about the woman empowerment and entrepreneurship, and all the hurdles and challenges. Um, Welcome, Miss Beth Van Duyne. Thank you for your commitment.
I appreciate that very much. I feel kind of like the odd man out on this panel. I'm happy to talk about entrepreneurship, but I think if we're focused and talking about women's empowerment, I think that's a very strong thing as well. As you mentioned, I actually was involved in the private sector, in the business world, private business sector, before I ever ran for office. I did 6 years, 2 terms on the Irving City Council, and then I also did two terms as the only woman mayor the only female mayor that Irving has ever had. And for those of you who may be familiar with the city, it's one of the top 100 largest cities in the country. We've got 7 Fortune 500 companies, including ExxonMobil. McKesson has recently moved here. Kimberly-Clark, Fluor, Commercial Metals, 7-Eleven moved here recently as well. So it's a fairly large corporate environment, but we have a very diverse population as well. So getting in as a woman, and when I was mayor, I was the only female on the council, had its fair share of experiences. But what I had always said was, don't support me, don't vote for me because I'm the female candidate. Vote for me because I am the best candidate, because I am I have the time, I have the vision, and I'm able to clearly articulate that. And it's a vision that the rest of the city can share. So getting involved in politics, getting involved in the business sector was hard. But I think early on in my career, my son, who's now 18, he's 3 months old, and we went to a citizens forum. And during that citizens forum, it was fairly apparent to me that people stopped paying attention to the candidates that were up on the stage. And it wasn't just apparent to me, it was pretty much apparent to the person who was hosting the event, because he stopped the event and he said, this is really embarrassing. People are not paying attention to what the speakers are saying. They're heckling them, they're criticizing them. And at the end of the day, these are people who are willing to take time out of their life, out of their busy schedule, out of their careers, their personal time, and dedicate it to representing you. You will never find an elected official who will have the same answer to a question that you would have. Your answer in your mind will always be, more correct. But the fact is that unless you're willing to get up here and be on stage and actually run and take all of the abuse that comes with it, these are the people you're going to support. So if you think that you can do a better job, then you get up here. Otherwise, you're going to have to support one of these two people up on stage. And that really struck home for me. And a few years later, when a council member was up for re-election, who I thought was doing an abysmal job of representing our city, but more specifically our district, I couldn't find anybody else to support because nobody else wanted to run. And it wasn't because they didn't think that that we needed a better leader in that position, but it was basically they just didn't want to do it themselves. And I think a lot of people do that. A lot of women in particular do that because we've got so many other things going on in our lives. We're taking care of our kids, or we're taking care of our parents, we're taking care of our household. And it's really easy to talk ourselves into, well, maybe I'll do it later. I've got all of these time. And I'll tell you, for the moms of you out in the audience, there's never really a great time to have kids. There's never a good time to start a business, and there's never a good time to have kids, right? Or to run for office. You just do it. You just put your mind together and you do it. And you work and you work and you work and you work and you work. Once I got elected mayor, one of the first things that I started working on was our business community, because we are blessed in this city that 3/4 of our tax base is business. So that means that 3/4 of our police and our fire and our streets and our sidewalks, our schools, 3/4 of the costs of those are paid for by the businesses that we bring in. So it was in our very best interest, in the interest of our residents that live here, to make sure that we were not only retaining the businesses that were here, but also in bringing new ones in. So I was the first mayor that actually created an economic advisory council, a mayor's economic advisory council, and I brought folks from all around the city, business people in to help us do exactly that. Because when you're starting a company, it's really, or when you're actually looking to move or where you're going to place a company, it's always good to talk to the mayor and the city council and make sure that you've got leadership support. But it's much better to actually, I think, talk to CEOs of other companies that are actually working in that city to make sure that they've got a positive working environment. Do they have people that they can hire? What's it like to travel there? Do you have employees that want to move there? And what is the business environment? Is it heavily taxed? Do they allow you to do what you need to do with signage to be able to get your most effective amount of marketing out? So we worked with our business community to be able to do that. We had a library that we were building in south end of town, and we were abandoning one of our other libraries. And it was a 4-story building, and we were just letting it more or less sit empty. And I said, why don't we do something with that building? I had traveled, I had gone to Israel, and I had gone to Saudi, and I had seen what other countries were doing to support their entrepreneurial base. And I said, as cities, we need to get involved in this as well. Because while we are so proud of the fact that we've got 7 Fortune 500 companies and a lot of large companies that have a presence here, we have over 6,000 small businesses here. So the whole idea of the entrepreneurial spirit is really what propels the backbone of most communities. So we took that 4-story building and we actually created an entrepreneurial center. We focused on women entrepreneurs because they have different challenges. that they face when they're opening businesses. We put a nursery area in there so that they could come and they could bring their kids if necessary and need be. We looked at getting mentors for them, which I think is so important. People want to see and talk to people who have done it, who have seen and overcome the challenges that they face. And recognizing that, I think the city has been very supportive, but also going to some of the larger companies and saying, can you come down and can you mentor these folks? And basically, if they are selling a product or they're selling a service, can you not only be one of the clients, but help them to get other clients? So we were trying to connect as much as possible, because seeing again what other countries around the country or around the world are being able to do to promote entrepreneurship, but specifically female entrepreneurship, is really important. We did not want to lose that advantage. Considering the size of the city, we have DFW Airport right in the middle of it that has access to cities across the world, with direct flights, as well as being in the middle of the country, which was wonderful because, regardless of which coast you're talking about, it's not that far of a flight. You're not that off on time. So, it's something that we have been struggling with as a community, and how right now, how to be able to get entrepreneurs that just started companies. And you have a pandemic that hits, how do you overcome that? And I think, working with the federal government is fine. Working with your local elected officials, I think, is actually stronger at this point in time, because what you're seeing is mayors and county judges across the country who are actually making those decisions when people can open, how they can open, and what they need to be able to do. In the last several months, as Reddy mentioned, I am running for Congress. I've been running now for 11 months in District 24, which DFW Airport is smack dab in the middle of the district. It includes areas between Fort Worth and Dallas. And we've been talking to a lot of people. We've reached out to about 40,000 people. And one of the concerns that we hear over and over again from business owners is the idea of liability and opening back up. So to that end, we've been trying to connect them as much as we can to Congress members who are actually helping to write some of these bills, and listening to what their concerns are. We have a very diverse zip code. We have a very diverse district, but we also have a very international area. I think being a female, I would be the first woman to actually hold this seat in Congress in Texas 24. But again, I think it's prevalent of us to make sure that we're electing the best person for the position. Right now, there's very few. I'm running as a Republican. Right now, there's very few Republican women in Congress. But we also had more women this year run than any other year by almost twice. There were 215 Republican women that were running for Congress this year. And I think that's something that we should be really proud of. We're getting a lot more support. I think as more leaders come out to support us and actually to be elected, it won't seem as if it's an oddity any longer. Of the top 100 largest cities in the country, less than a quarter of them have female mayors, which is better stats than you have in Congress or in Senate right now. But I'm doing my part, and I have appreciated for years the support that I have gotten from the Indian community, specifically in Valley Ranch, in Irving, Capel, Carrollton, and it's such an active community. And you guys will keep us busy. It was amazing how many invitations I got when I was mayor, just in a day period. So it's been wonderful to be able to work with you, and I really look forward to working with you again in the future. And don't ever hesitate to reach out to me if I can be of service.
Thank you, Miss Van Duyne. I know we participate, we engage in public, whatever community we live. But thank you for your time. Please stay back if you could, for the question and answer session. I have a distinct honor to introduce our next speaker, Miss Vani Kola. I'm very, very proud of her success because we come from same college but different times. She's much senior to me, and we talk about her a lot for her success. She comes from what I understand from just like all of us, middle class, educated family, father being a government employee and went to regular schools. and but had a big vision, and she has a strong will and go getter. But thank you, Miss Kola. I know it's late for you. You're joining us from India. We definitely appreciate your commitment and willingness to join the Zoom conference on our invitation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to share a few things from my journey, although I don't know the audience composition, so I'm not quite sure what will be of interest or not, because this is really primarily about adding value to you in some way. But as she mentioned, I grew up in Hyderabad until such time that I came to graduate school in US to Arizona, in fact. But until then, I actually don't think I traveled outside of Hyderabad very much at all. And, like many people of my generation, I think there was a strong family commitment to education. In fact, my mother had a vision for her daughters to be educated, independent women. And I'm always not only proud of that lineage of coming from strong women, but sometimes I marvel how, with very limited education herself, how she dreamed of this for her daughters. So, and I share this because, I think one person's dream can alter the course and destiny of many people. And so for me, I think there was always encouragement to pursue my interests, and rarely, at least I recall, a pressure of what I was supposed to become. And I think that's a big freedom in of itself. And I say this because sometimes I take that to my heart as a parent, how much of what we dream and want for our children can sort of be a pressure of expectation that's very difficult to carry at a young age. So I'm very grateful that there wasn't any script of what I was supposed to become. So you are able to go out and let life happen and explore. I had an early interest in math, and I was always good at it. Fortunately, like again, many girls my age, I went to an all-girls school, which means that nobody said to you, you couldn't be interested in STEM, or you couldn't be interested in this or that or whatever. In fact, my children laugh when they see the photos from my school days, because in school plays, the girls also dressed up as boys, okay, because that's what you, how you put up plays or how you did everything. But I think it was great and liberating in a way for me to grow up in a girls' school, because I think there was a lot of freedom to explore anything you wanted to do. So, my early interest in math, though, meant I chose to take a path of becoming an engineer. And at that time, I remember when I joined engineering, and today, thank God, it's very different. You see almost 40-50% women in engineering schools. But at that time, I think in my whole class, there were like 6 girls. And somehow, it wasn't sort of as welcome to be an engineer. But anyway, I enjoyed problem solving and creating new products. But I don't think my engineering education, I even ever knew how to spell entrepreneurship. It wasn't part of the pedagogy to even think about, what your aspirations were, where did you really want to end up in life. So sometimes I'm really amazed when I see my young children. I mean, they're not that young, they're 25 and 22, but they know so much about the world and what they want. And I don't think at their age I really had exposure enough to even think about it. So I'm a venture capitalist today, I don't think I knew what a venture capital was, or even knew of its existence, like I said, let alone what entrepreneurship meant. But I think there is also a beauty to life when we let it happen in incremental steps. So, uh, taking my interest in math, becoming an engineer, taking my interest in problem solving and creating new products and making those choices from a career perspective. And, that brought me to Silicon Valley after I finished my master's. And, Valley, of course, is surrounded by a very strong entrepreneurial culture, which I think suited me very nicely. And it allowed me to explore my capacity to create products and then to be challenged to start my own company. And as Beth was saying, I know, Shri, you said, we women bear children, and, we have homes to care for, and we have our careers and so on and so forth. And all of that is, of course, there and true. But like I said, I already look at the sort of lineage of very strong women I came from, and I look at their lives, and I think they had so much more that they stood for and did. So I think in many ways I've had it easier compared to, my mother or my grandmother and what their lives were. So, and I also don't necessarily, I mean, when I went to engineering school, I was 16, and there were 6 girls in my class in Hyderabad, which was a provincial town really at that time. It's very cosmopolitan today, but it was very, very conservative at that time. In fact, I smile when I think about it, but at that point, after you finished your engineering entrance exam, there was an interview, and you went to campus and there was an interview. They asked you what your goal was, which department you wanted to be in, and so forth. And almost every professor dissuaded me from becoming an engineer. They said, why do you want to become an engineer? You're taking away a seat, a job from a potential bread earner for a family, so to speak, right? And that was such a prevalent thought at that time. And, not to mention the worry about if you become an engineer, who will really want to marry you. And those were real conversations, right, at that point, which was not, it's not, centuries ago, it's only decades ago. But life changes, and I'm glad to see today, how many more opportunities there are for women to pursue their different career choices. But I think it's important to have a willingness to take a leap of faith sometimes on what your life can be and what you want. So I think it was really such a leap of faith that with which I started a company, because I was really truly a product engineer person. I didn't really know anything about business. I didn't come from a business family. I don't think anyone in my family had any business insight at all. And I never even used an Excel spreadsheet at the time I started my first company in 1996. But the company became very successful. It was a software company. And then in 2001, I sold that in 2000. And then I started one in 2001 again, and sold it in 2005. But you can learn pretty much anything you want to learn. That's something I've always believed in. And when you become complacent and you stay in your comfort zone, and it's familiar, so it's what we try to be, and but it's not your friend. Complacency and comfort zone are not your friends. I think we cheat ourselves from exploring so much more of what we are capable of, because we are worried about what could happen. And I think willingness to fail, it has to be a part of life and a part of trying to succeed. There is no success without willingness to fail. So I think for me, at least, starting my company, I looked at it and said, what is the downside? And that's pretty much how I've always looked at many things in life. I mean, if you can handle the downside, and the downside really, if you put it, is you won't succeed. I mean, that's like, okay, right? So, post having done a decade of building software companies, that did quite well. Unexpectedly, I moved back to India, which has been really for me a deeply fulfilling journey. And it again started without so much planning. I don't think I would have been able to visualize coming back to India or the opportunities it presented. But in 2005, when I sold my second company, I was thinking about what next. And it wasn't really clear what I wanted to do next. But I took a month off and decided to travel in India all by myself. And I had never really taken that kind of time off, because you're on your treadmill, you have family, you have, kids' responsibilities. Though the 22 years that I had by then spent in US, I had, of course, come back to India for travel, but it was largely limited to family and short visits. But I took a month, and then I was just very inspired by where India was going at that point. And I felt that it would be great fun to be part of that very nascent entrepreneurial journey that was just starting in India. So we moved back with the kids, with the dog, with everything. And I started a venture capital fund. We have invested close to $650 million so far in India through Kalari Capital. And we have funded over 80 companies. We generally invest into early stage tech companies. We like being the first investor into these tech companies. And the joy, of course, is working with young entrepreneurs, seeing their vision come to life, and being part of their ideas that you see come to fruition and become successful, and sometimes not successful. And that part of that journey is really, for me, very fulfilling and energizing. And so that's what I do. And I've always looked at my willingness to take a big leap and accept whatever the setbacks are that come as part of any journey, and sort of reset, restart as needed, as the most important probably character traits that maybe I was allowed freedom to explore from a very young age, that has truly helped me from pursuing what I have pursued as a journey of my life. So I will stop there, and thank you for this opportunity to share my thoughts with you.
Thank you, Vani. But your personal experiences raises a lot of questions. I mean, curiosity for audience, and I got so many requests. Is there a way you could spare a few more minutes? Let our third speaker, and then a lot of anxiousness to. You're the most inspiring personality. So could you please stay for a few more minutes, please?
Yeah, sure.
I know it's getting late for you. So let me introduce my third speaker, Miss Jhansi Reddy. Most of the American Telugu community knows her. She's been part of various Telugu organizations, but she has her own personal entrepreneurial endeavor. She's into real estate, and but I know had a humble beginning, but she created a big enterprise by herself. So, Jhansi Reddy garu, are you still there?
Yes, Sandeep. Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving this opportunity, especially for Telugu Entrepreneur Association. అండ్ నా పేరు ఝాన్సీ రెడ్డి అండి. నేను చప్పకట్లపాలెంలో I was born and raised in Chappakatlapalam till I was 5 years old. It's a Khammam district. So unfortunately, my father always believed, even though woman always has to live like in a very powerful role as a man or a male dominating. And unfortunately, before he sees that, he passed away when I was 5 years old. And at that time, me and my mom moved to America, when I was 11 years old. So I started my schooling here in California. Actually, we moved to California. And we have my uncles here, and who helped us bring us here. And we stayed with them, and and raised by them. And I started working when I was 11 years old in their family restaurant. And that's where I learned a lot of work ethics. And they used to be in a business too. So even though I'm in a middle school, I used to watch them and observe them. And lot of and we used to have a lot of things that I used to catch from them. And talking about the business side aspect. Okay. And so I got married when I was 16. Then we moved to New Jersey because my husband happened to be a doctor and he has a residency program in New Jersey. So we went to New Jersey and we moved there and we did our residency program. And while he's doing his residency, because I got married when I was in high school, so I had to finish after my high school when I was got married. And then I started working in the banking industry. And before I started in the banking industry, when I was in high school, I started my part-time job in a pharmacy tech. And after my pharmacy tech is done, and I think after my oldest one was born when I was 18. So that's by the time 18, I graduated my high school. Then I went back to banking industry. So that's where I got a lot of financing interest in the banking industry. That's where I got into interesting in the business as well. So I worked in a banking industry for 6 years, and that's where I grew with the bank along with my position. And finally, after my husband finished all his fellowship, residency, and by that time we have 2 children, and we moved back to California, and that's where he went to practice as a cardiology. And that's when I started exposing myself into business and looking around what business opportunity we can do that I can accomplish while he's doing his cardiology practice. And by that time, we already have 2 kids. And then by the time I start my real estate business, we already have 3 children. So this was in 1992. We started our business. And first, I think we started our business as a real estate, as an investment, not as a business. But coincidentally, I start looking at it as a business point of the view rather than investment point of the view. So that's when we start investing 32 units in California by UC Berkeley. And now we started anywhere from San Francisco all the way to Central California. I own and manage 1,000 apartments and close to 100 homes, and 1,000 acres of farming we do also, almonds and pistachios. And over the years, since 1992 all the way to 2017, all this growth has been done. And during these years, it's not easy, my traveling in the road or my path of real estate that I have chosen. It's not been easy, but it's difficult. But nothing is impossible. When you have a will, there's a way. And I always feel that, if you're working something, wantingly, I think it makes a lot of easier, no matter how hard and how difficult it is. And in a property management, especially the way I see here is more of a male-dominated society. Not much women are there. I know women are there in sales, but this is not a sales. This is a property management. So I know I have my own shares of difficulties, but we overcome. That's a challenge, taking as a challenging and overcome the difficulties and proving yourself you are. And I think for us, like they all said, we get married and have children and focus as a mother and wife and a daughter and daughter-in-law, so many, side, I would say distractions in our life. But I don't think we should look at it as a distractions rather than responsibilities. We have our own responsibilities, of share of our responsibilities and roles in each day I wake up, we have our different roles, and I think we have to fulfill our roles differently and live in that role each time we practicing that roles. Like, for example, if I come home, I want to be a full-time mom and full-time wife, but when I go to my office, I don't want to hear any my husband complains or my children complains, other than my only office or my business things. I think that's where we can do justice to any position that we handle in our life. And also productivity-wise, also I feel that we can accomplish more productivity by doing that. And we have 3 children, and now we have 4 grandchildren. Actually, my 4th one was born last night, and so we are happy. And now my older 2 are doctors. My oldest one is a cardiology, and his wife is a rheumatologist. And my second is a daughter, and she's a radiologist, and husband is a engineer. And my youngest is in business with me since because I'm in the business since he was a baby. So he got into business along with me, and now his wife is also into the business. And I think challenging is I take it as a very positive, and turn that into positive energy. And I want to tell all the women out there is nothing we can accomplish, nothing that we cannot accomplish, and nothing that we cannot do. And no matter what we come across, no matter what things we face, and no matter what challenges we face. So we should not step back. And anytime, like for me in my life, every time I get discouraged from anybody or from myself, I always take that into positive energy and take one more step forward. And I think that's where we can able to accomplish. We should never let anybody discouraged, and we should listen to them. But, we have to have our own trust on us and our own confidence. And confidence is very, very important. And believing in ourselves is very, very important, no matter whether we do big work or small work, or big job or small job. And unless we take a risk, there's no pain, there's no gain on it. Unless we take a risk, there's no, proven. So I always feel that for any woman out there, we should always take a risk, and we should always prove ourselves. We should always have a confidence, and we should always have believe in ourselves. And most important thing is encouragement and dynamism. And the braveness. These are the things, and also consistency is very, very important in our life.
Thanks. Thank you, Andy. I know you're joining us today from the hospital. I can hear the background chatter there. I really appreciate it. Next, I guess we can open up the floor for the question and answer. Before we do that, I really apologize for, there are a lot of people who could not join today because of the change of login ID. I'm trying to send it as much as possible, but still there are people who could not join. But the people who were able to join today, really appreciate it. I think we'll go ahead and open up questions for Ms. Kola because she has to go. She stayed back on our request. I have a few questions, Vani. I just Googled a few minutes ago. First thing that appears there is Vani is an Indian venture capitalist. She was listed as one of the most powerful women in Indian business by Fortune India. That's a big title and big responsibility. I know there are so many articles on you on Google, and one of the things that I looked at, your early first company that you sold was about 800 some change $1 million. I cannot even fathom the number. I'm a hundreds and thousands guy, not a million guy, but it's a great story. Could you please um, briefly, how did you feel? I mean, I'm sure you had a ton of employees, managing all these employees, and just can you please share a few from some of your early experiences?
You know, when we were talking for this event privately, you had asked me somewhat of a similar question. And, you know, honestly, I think each of us look at our own lives as pretty ordinary. And, you know, we all have done whatever we have done. And, you know, Jhansi was telling her story, and I was thinking, gosh, at 16, she got married. And at 16, I don't know what I was doing, you know, bumming around with classmates, trying to go to a movie without my parents knowing, or whatever, you know, without my professors knowing, you know. And so everyone has a life journey. And when you look at somebody else's life, you say, wow, how did they do that? But, you know, I think we all walk the path that's in front of us. So I don't quite look at it from your lens. Yeah, yes, I mean, the company sold for something, but everything is built brick by brick, you see, and then, you know, there is something there. And so it's not that it's when it's not overnight inherited. You know, I remember when I came to US in 85, at that time, this was before 91 liberalization, right? So there's a pre-91 and post-91. RBI allowed you to take only $100, okay? And that's all you could take. And sometimes I look back on the naivete or foolishness or courage or whatever you want to call it. We landed up in a country. I didn't know, you know, a single soul in US. My family didn't know anybody here, right? Or anybody in US. And there was $100. And, you know, you just somehow thought life would work out, right? And you know, and I remember the first day I felt so lonely, because all of us in India, of course, come from a very strong sense of belonging into a family and a community, and you take it so much for granted. And I never really, I don't think until that moment, thought about what it would mean truly to be all alone, which I had never ever been before that, right? And I remember that day writing a letter to my parents saying, you know, I'm going to work hard, I'm going to save $100,000, and I'm coming back home, right? So that was something that I still have. So I think God has been very good to all of us, right? And that's how I look at it. I don't think, you know, there is any special emotion or something I can share with you. You know, you just do things step by step, and some things work out and some things don't work out. But as long as you have done what you want to do, and you know, you feel fulfilled by it and you are at peace with it, then you know, you have accomplished what you came to accomplish in life. That's how I look at it.
And also looks like you're very extremely disciplined person. You know, some of us, if I eat a little more, it's not a big deal. If I sleep late and get up late, it's not a big deal. But for you, it looks like that's not the case. You have to do certain things on a certain timeline. And is that contributed to your success? Is there any? And then also, it looks like you take challenges, like you climbed a mount, the tallest mountain, Himalayas, and something like that. You have a personality like some of us don't have, or should we try to do those things that will add to our confidence level, taking up you know, entrepreneurial endeavors? Would that make any difference? Can you add some light on that, please?
I think we all make, you know, different choices, and for me, you know, I get up very early, generally between 5 and 5:30, generally around 5:30. and my day starts with my yoga and meditation, almost without fail every day. And then, and then I really feel energized and ready for my day. And I think the habit of this 5:30 is because if I, know that I need some me time, personal time, I've never felt that I should feel guilty about trying to find a way to carve out time for myself, my thinking time. um, and the only way that was possible when the kids were younger, of course the kids are not home now, they're living their own life, but still when the kids were younger, the only way it was possible was to be able to get up really early so I can get that time before the house starts. So I think the habit started from knowing deeply what I needed and finding a way to include that into my life. And I do think that consistency, is important. And any of these is not about waking up early or not waking up early. It's about setting goals and being able to have the discipline to stick to it. And, those are like muscles, they grow with time. And as you engage with it all the time, and climbing Kilimanjaro or whatever, which was, I did many years ago, I don't know if I could do today, but almost 19 years ago now, I think, is when I did that. But point of it was to set a challenge, break that down into bite-sized goals, uh, incrementally build your capacity and competency. And then when you achieve one goal, the probability you can achieve another goal and another goal and another goal, and you can set bigger or better or different goals, I think improves, right? So at least for me, I like challenging myself and, trying to set different goals that I haven't tried yet.
Okay. Thank you again. I don't see any other questions. If anybody in the audience has questions before Vani leaves, please.
It's all right. We have Beth and Jhansi also. Their life stories are so interesting. I think we should put questions to them.
No. There will be more questions to them since you have to leave, that we are focusing on you. Yeah, I have a question for Ms. Van Duyne. What motivates you to get into the public life, and what is the most interesting as a public servant?
I think what I was saying earlier is, I've got 2 kids. My family lives here, and I think you're either born with a servant's heart or you're not. And I think I just look at, practical effectiveness that our elected officials have. And I just saw a lack. And I see that not just at the city, local level, but also at the federal level. I think people right now are starving for people who are pragmatic, folks who are running for election that just want to be able to get things done. They don't want to have politicians that argue and just fight about a specific party platform, but I think they are really looking for people who go to serve their needs, to look at issues and discuss issues not like children, but like adults, and want to bring pragmatic solutions to the forefront, and are willing to be able to spend the time necessary to devise them, strategize about them, discuss them, compromise if necessary, but to bring enough votes to the table to be able to get some things done. We live in such a divisive time right now, and the media, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, the media does not help. They seem to be more fight promoters than anything else. So what motivates me is I see things, a pathway to get things done. Whether or not that's working with our police, whether or not that's working on economic development and bringing businesses to your city, whether or not that's just cleaning up the streets. And we've had some real successes, and it's been part of being a leader, is taking the hard knocks and taking the blame and sharing the credit. And I don't know that enough people do that, but for me, I was motivated to really get involved when I saw specific issues that were being ignored, and whole neighborhoods that didn't have a voice. And I wanted to make sure that I was doing my best to have a strong backbone and a loud voice to make sure that we were listening to their concerns and acting on them. And as a mayor, it was great because you could go into a neighborhood. You would have people who would come up to you in the grocery store, and they would have a specific ask. And as soon as you walked away, you could call up the city manager and say, "Can you take care of this? Can we handle this? Can we at least get this on the next agenda to talk about?" You know, in Congress, where you've got over 435 folks up there, you know, from a party platform perspective, it's going to be a lot different. But I think when you have played a part in creating policy, have seen that policy to fruition, and have had to fight for it, but actually see the positive results, it motivates you to do the next thing. You know, in Irving, we have a phenomenal police department, and it's not by accident. We all support our police officers in getting involved in our communities, in our areas of worship, in our churches, in our schools, in our businesses. They created trust relationships and they created bridges. And what you're seeing across the country right now it's shameful. As leaders, they should be the ones taking it on the chin and not blaming an entire department. Because quite honestly, if you thought your department was not working, then where were you as a leader to help fix it? And we have had some phenomenal results and wins and successes. And that I think really helps motivate me to want to do more.
Thank you. I have a my own question. What challenges you faced when installing Gandhi statue, and what motivated you to take that task up, not giving up with all the resistance that you received?
You know
Was
what? Well,
there a personal
yeah,
connection to Gandhi's principles, or what connected you to make that happen?
I think Gandhi's voice, what he stood for, yes, his principles, his vision, but really what he stood for should be a a phenomenal voice for all of us, for all of mankind. So I was definitely a supporter of putting the statue in, and your community was so strong, and such an advocate and so willing to work with this city to basically do whatever we needed to do to get it in. Very compelling arguments were made. And what I have found, when I was mayor is you really do have reasonable people who live here. What you do have is outside activists who like to come in and cause trouble when they can, to see if political pressures will make weaker officials. And when we were trying to get the Gandhi statue built, we had to create an entire policy on outside groups promoting statues that we were going to put in public places. We had to write a new policy on that. And when that got out there, we received hate mail. How anybody could receive hate mail for wanting to put a Gandhi statue is beyond me. But you know, for me personally, it just made me, it gave me stronger resolve to get it done and to get it done correctly. Again, your community deserved that. You were willing to work with us to get that done, and there would be absolutely no reason other than just political expediency, you know, to bow down to pressures of outside activist groups was ridiculous to me. You live here, I represent you, and I think it's been a huge bonus for our entire city. But I think it's just been I think it's been a wonderful addition, and I want to thank you for all the time that you put in, personally, as well as, you know, the leaders and on that project. They were.
Thank you. We definitely need committed leaders like you. Public service is not an easy task. It's a lot of commitment. It's a 24 by 7 commitment. It's not like 8 to 5 job.
No.
I've seen you in action, how committed you are, how passionate you are. And we definitely, my personal appeal to this audience here, and I'll also help you go out and, you know, drum up support, because we need leaders like you. Again, thank you for being with us today. Um, I have a few more questions popping up. This is for Miss Jhansi Reddy Garu. A lot of people in Dallas, especially, and Indian community, Telugu community, is interested in real estate. Dallas is a growing, I think, fastest growing city in America. There are so many people are migrating. The values are going up. So question is, what would you recommend people who are just getting started? Or that's one question. Second question is, real estate needs money to make money. So people who have a meager money, what is your message? How do you want them to start? So there are two questions.
Yeah, number one question is, for them to start, I encourage people that wants to start right now. To start is the location. Real estate is always location and location to have a successful. They need to see the location, and also the property is a B, C. That's what we go in our terms. A means very high class, and B means below a high class. So depending on what kind of clients you can tell that you want to have, which is C is always affordable housing. That's what we call it. So C and D can be always affordable housing, but C may not be 100% affordable housing, but there will be definitely in C class, there is always affordable housing involved. But so you have to go to the categories of that plus the location to anybody that wants to invest and look into real estate opportunities right now. The second is, yeah, we do need an investment. See, this is the way we started. We initially had an investment of $1 million with us, and we invested into one property. Those in 1992, I'm talking about. And we invested into one property, and we took a short-term loan, and then we put a $1 million down, and with $2.7 million property, and we took $1.7 million loan. And after 5 years, you refinance the property and you pull the collateral from that, and you can reinvest that money. That's what the smart business people will do, is they don't park the money in one property. They should always pull the money from that property and reinvest into the property, because the property you reinvest will have a, grow with the market value. But if you park it in there and, it won't grow, it's just being your loan balance less, but that's not going to get you anywhere in the market. And definitely, yeah, we do need an investment, but you can always take a loan for the down payment as well, and then take a second mortgage on the building or any real estate that you do, and go from there. I know we always have to start from the smaller steps. And when we are getting up on the ladder, we cannot start from the second step. We always have to go to the first step from the bottom. But slowly, steadily, you can always, build up. Not a problem, but it can be done.
So basically, your message is leveraging. Just whatever the money you have, you keep on leveraging. Go off, take more loans, more capital.
Being a safe side leverage, not you have to think about the vacancies. So even if you have a vacancies, you should be able to still pay your mortgage payment along with other bills. So you should have a little bit of cushion so you don't go under.
Did you invest in the first investment? Was it a apartment, multi living, or what type of investment was that?
That's a multi-family apartment complex.
Okay. Is that what you recommend people to start? Or I know real estate is a big subject. There are so many commercial, land, multifamily, single home, rental properties. Which one is the more, more fruitful and more value addition?
Multifamily, because the reason is you're dealing with one building, So if you send your employees, so they don't have to go in and out. But if it's a single family, you waste a lot of the time, going from one place to another. But on the yield it's going to be a lot more beneficial on the multifamily versus single family. Single family they can go, but if somebody wants to have a small investor, then they can go in a single family homes, one at a time. But if they want to go in a little bigger scale, I would recommend them as a multifamily.
How do you find these properties? What type of network?
We have real estate agents working for us and looking for our properties for all the time. So they send the listings, and then we go through the listings and see what is the income and expenses and what is our loan. So we penciled out our budget, what can we come up at the end of the month. Because the reason is right now, when we purchase the property, we may have a 100% vacancy or 95% vacancy. That doesn't mean 95% vacancy is going to be there. 95 occupancy is going to be there all the time. So the 5% vacancy can go up to 10% vacancy. See, right now we see throughout the whole California, we see a lot of vacancies, even by UC Berkeley, because UC Berkeley is a recession-proof for all these years that we have owned the properties. But we never seen this kind of a recession by UC Berkeley because all the colleges are closed and they're having online classes. So if they're having online classes, they don't want to pay the rents and stay, higher renting area where they could have moved with their parents or move to cheaper places and pay the cheaper rent and attend the classes from online. So we do see that. So that's why I always say, have some leverage for the vacancy rate to go higher. And right now, we see a lot of vacancies because of the situation with Corona-19, and plus the economy is hurting. So right now, I would suggest anybody that wants to go into real estate, wait till the elections are over and see how the market is going to turn.
So you said about location. For this multi-family apartment complexes, what type of locations your experience says it's more useful or more profitable? One is, you probably own in by the university areas, but it's not easy to find, to purchase. What are the other locations you would recommend from your own experience?
And if they want to have some recession proof, I would suggest by UCs, universities, and that's the thing. And also, I know, like you said, it is very hard to find by UCs, but then they can go into the market where the job market places are. Like, for example, right now we own properties in San Francisco also by financial center. So financial center is a place where they are going to need a place to stay, but yet in a bigger cities like San Francisco, they don't want to commute and waste a lot of time in the commute because commuting takes a lot of time. So those kind of places we need to identify. But like, for example, in Fresno, we provide housing to farming community. So we have a lot of packing houses. We have a lot of like a Walmart retail stores, and we have not only like food storaging, like the vegetables and fruit storaging places. So we provide that. So in that case, we manage 232 over there, but out of that we have almost like 30% affordable housing, where Section 8. So, but those kind of communities, they do need Section 8 help because, especially in our valley, there's a lot of farming community. So because of the farming community, we get a lot of farmers from out of country and work through the season and leave. So that works out better. So depending on the situation, depending on the the tenants that you want to support the housing to.
You don't own any. You don't invest in owning land and selling the land, empty lands. They're not income generating properties. What's your thoughts?
That is true. Yeah, that is we did that before, but we felt like it's a waste of money because your money is parked someplace, but still you're paying the mortgage payment, plus you're paying the property taxes, but you're not generating any income. So with us, I mean, with my experience, our rental properties are better because even though you're paying the mortgage payment, you're paying the property taxes and your bills, still you're generating the income. So that's where your offsets, your income and expenses, plus you can still able to pull the money from this property and invest into another property. But whereas empty land, you cannot do that because you cannot pull the money from the empty land because it's not generating an income.
Okay. Any questions from the audience, please? We're past 12. Anybody?
Looks like everybody wants to stay calm.
Okay. I know, Jhansi Garu, you probably have to go. Congratulations on your grandchild. Thank you for joining us from the hospital. That's really means a lot to us. And also our Mayor Beth Van Duyne, and then Vani Kola. We really appreciate. And we appreciate our IT support, Ravi Chandra, even though we have a little glitch, but he quickly realized and made it happen to join. I know we apologize for others who could not join because of the change of login ID. Again, thank you so much for people who joined. Thank you all the speakers. Be safe out there, and hopefully things will set back to normal quickly.
Thank you, Andy. Hi, Kavita.
Your message. Sure. Ravi Tanda. Sorry, I can't talk right now.
Hi, Jhansika. It
Hi,
was very
Bhavana.
nice. Yeah, Bhavana, no? It is always wonderful to hear about you and your accomplishments and, all your hard work. It's very nice. You're like a role model and mentor to so many. I've seen you personally also. Yeah.
Thank you, Kavita. Yeah. So actually, we are blessed with another grandchild, Kavita, last night.
Yeah, just now I'm hearing from you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So very busy in personal life also. And I know you do a lot of gardening also. I'm seeing you so many unique plants from your garden lately.
Yeah, that's my passion.
Yeah, it's unbelievable with the work you're doing. Yes.
Yeah, but thank you so much. Nice seeing you, Kavita.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks, Srinivas Garu, for bringing me.
Thanks, and thank you for joining us. I know Saturdays or weekends are busy, but despite that, we will one of these days we'll organize another event for all the women community leaders. And you're one of the community leader, and you're doing a great job. And thank you for all your commitments.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. Thank you. It's everybody's like a team effort. Everybody, especially in this COVID, I think we are learning a lot and through at least through Zoom and virtual sessions. And truly appreciate for doing this and learning a lot from all these mentors and all the speakers. It is very useful and information.
A great source of inspiration. I mean,
I agree.
They all went through the same way we're doing it. So just have to get out there and do it. Seems like nothing is impossible.
Yeah. And tomorrow also we are from TDF, we are doing a doctor's session, Andy, from USA and India. I will share the flyer to you.
Yeah, please.
Please share and join the event.
Sure,
okay.
Sure.
Yeah. And also మన health minister కూడా join అవుతాడు. So it will be nice.
Nice. We'll join. Thanks, Andy.
Okay. Thank you, Andy. Thank you.
Have a good weekend.